Hello, everybody. Welcome to Answers, Special Education Today for September 13th, 2022. I'm Kevin Daly for PATH. In this edition of Answers, there will be a school update by yours truly. Our in-house advocate, Audrey May Talbot, will introduce Theresa Martens, who will talk about the Think College program. Emily Ball and Andrea Richardson of PATH will join us to discuss the transition to life after high school. And as usual, there will be time at the end for Q&A with participants, so get ready to click on Q&A or chat, send us your questions, we'll answer them at the end. Answers is brought to you by PATH, a nonprofit organization that supports families of children with special needs. For more information about this webinar, please contact me directly at kdaly@pathct.org. For more information about PATH, visit our website at pathct.org. And while you're online, visit us on Facebook and Twitter, and be sure to check out on YouTube, the PATH YouTube channel, where you'll find videos of past Answers webinars. Here's the fine print, folks. This webinar is not to be considered legal advice or healthcare advice or advice of any kind. It is the sole property of PATH and not to be used for any other purpose. Here's the school update. In case you haven't noticed, summer is over and the kids are back in school. This year, most of the pandemic precautions have been cut way back, but the threat of the pandemic still lingers in the background, as pervasive as the latest TikTok meme. We've moved on from the days of school closures and learning at home. However, the effects of the pandemic on public education, they still remain. Many of these effects are greater than before, and the students who are hit the hardest are the students with high needs, the students who aren't easy to teach, like special education students. Take the teacher shortage, for example. This year, most public schools in the US are experiencing a teacher shortage, especially in certain subject areas. As of August, 44% of our nation's schools had unfilled teaching positions. That's according to the National Center for Education Statistics. And it's not as if we didn't see it coming. Back in March, the National Education Association, and that's the nation's largest teacher union, it surveyed its members about retaining their jobs. About 55% indicated they plan to leave the profession earlier than expected. And that's an increase from 37% in their fall 2021 survey. In April, the Connecticut Department of Education warned there would be critical shortages in these teaching areas during our current academic school year. Do you see how this affects special education students? 3 of these areas include special educators, people who work with our children every day. Let's look at the national picture. In August, researchers at Annenberg Institute at Brown University announced the results of a study that estimated there are more than 36,000 unfilled teacher positions in the nation. Here's how it breaks down by state. These 23 states have up to 1,000 unfilled teaching positions. Connecticut is one of those states. These 9 states have between 1,000 to 2,000 open teaching positions. Wisconsin has 2,000 to 3,000 unfilled positions, and these 4 states have more than 3,000 unfilled teaching positions. Florida is one of those states. In August, Florida officials announced there were more than 9,000 unfilled teaching positions. Put it all together and you can see how the shortage is hitting the Southeast US the hardest. The states colored gray did not provide enough data to be included in the research. Meanwhile, here in Connecticut, our schools are dealing with a teacher shortage too, and also a shortage of para-educators and tutors. These are professionals who work closely with our children, sometimes more closely than their teachers do. Right now, the State Department of Education is surveying school districts to measure the extent of vacancies across the state. We don't have the results yet, but the Connecticut Examiner recently took a look at some communities in the state, and it looks far less than ideal. Research by the Examiner shows that Hartford has a 14% teacher vacancy rate. That includes the need for 90 additional classroom teachers. New Britain has 120 open positions, including 10 elementary school teachers and 10 middle school teachers. Tiny New London has more than 46 unfilled teacher positions. And now looking at the shortage of paraeducators and tutors, Danbury schools are short by more than 80. Newington Public Schools are short 30 paraeducators. Watertown, 50 paraeducators. Greenwich has 57 open positions. All this has a ripple effect that impacts special education students in a number of ways. Teacher shortages cause an over-reliance on substitute teachers, which creates a shortage of substitute teachers. Fewer educators cause larger class sizes. This affects special education students who need more individual attention than their peers do. Fewer special educators, and I'm including paraeducators and tutors, that makes it difficult for schools to provide special education services and tutoring for homebound students. And it's a dark reality, but it's true. Subs for special education teachers may have no special education experience. And because subs aren't regular school district employees, there are school districts where confidentiality policy prevents subs from seeing their students' IEPs and 504 plans. I know it's crazy. That's why it's important for parents to stay on top of things, ask questions. Parents have a right to know if their child's teacher is not highly qualified. And if you learn your child has a substitute teacher who isn't highly qualified, it's important to reach out to that person. Explain your child's abilities. Start an ongoing conversation. Let them know what your child needs. You know, there's a word for this activity. It's called advocating. Unfortunately, this program is going to stay with us for a while. Stay with us for at least the rest of the school year. What are school districts doing to combat this program? The lifesavers are about what you would expect: financial incentives, better working conditions. In some states, state governments are assisting the effort through legislation and funding, and finding ways to fast track students who are already training to become educators. And in some states, they're not, and their school districts are on their own. For the most part, Connecticut is not one of those states. Coming up, Emily Ball and Andrea Richardson will talk about life after high school. But first, Audra Mae Talbot is going to introduce Theresa Martens. We're fortunate to have Theresa with us. Theresa is an occupational therapist and a partners in policy making scholar. Theresa is here to talk about Think College, and you're about to see an abridged version of Theresa's Think College presentation. Her complete presentation is available on YouTube on the PATH YouTube channel. It's in a special edition of Answers. Just go to the PATH CT YouTube channel and search for Think College. Theresa's unabridged presentation has a wealth of information that you won't be seeing here. It's well worth watching. And now I'm going to turn it over to Audra.
Hi, my name is Audra Talbot, and thank you for joining us tonight, PATH, for our webinar. We have a very special guest, Theresa Martens. She's an occupational therapist, currently practicing in the school system. She has 20+ years experience within the field of occupational therapy in various settings, with her true passion in the area of pediatrics. In addition, she is the mother of 5 children. Her first child, Morgan, is age 12 and loves basketball, gymnastics, and swimming. She also has Down syndrome. Theresa is currently participating in the Partners in Policymaking program. That is a national program whose goal is to educate and train the leaders of tomorrow to advocate on behalf of those with disabilities. As part of her graduation requirements, she has completed a PowerPoint presentation on Think College, which we will further discuss in today's webinar. Theresa, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you, Audra, for that warm welcome. I would like to take a few minutes to discuss the history of the making of Think College. So as we know, in the past, children with an intellectual disability did not have the right to access public primary or high school education, let alone college. In 1975, things began to change with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which allowed for the access of those with intellectual disabilities to a free, appropriate public education with access to individualized planning within their least restrictive learning environments. Additional changes occurred in 1990s with the Americans with Disabilities Act, better known as the ADA. This had a major impact on the lives of people with intellectual disabilities. In 2008, the ADA was amended, which brought broader implications for college and universities that are seeking to provide access to higher education. And this amendment was the Higher Education Opportunity Act. Before this act, students with intellectual disabilities had no access to federal financial aid because they did not receive a diploma or were not seeking a degree. So what is Think College? Think College is a website. It's a national project dedicated to developing and expanding and improving the inclusive higher education options for people with intellectual disabilities. The national project is housed in UMass Boston. The choice to attend college should be there for anybody who wants to attend. This website provides information on over 314 college programs. Those are identified on the website. But only 129 of those are what we consider comprehensive transition and post-secondary programs, or CTP programs, that are approved by the federal government. And I'll go into more detail about what that actually means later on in this PowerPoint presentation. A third of the programs listed on the Think College website offer housing options as well. So let's take a few minutes and look at the Think College website. As discussed in the video, there are a lot of resources here. So they have the college search, advocacy information, student corner, family resources, the current projects that they're working on, all in here. Some training. As you can see here, they have a video library, past webinars, tons of resources. I do want to spend a few minutes looking at the college search and how that looks. So as you can see here, they have the whole map of the United States. And so if we wanted to click on, say, Connecticut, we would click there, and it shows all of the potential colleges within the state of Connecticut. And Goodwin University has is a CTP certified federal program. So I want to just highlight that one. It will mention it down here, and you can click on that and it will give you more information. It gives you the email information, more details about all the various colleges within Connecticut. Okay, I love that resource. Just the looking at the states all there together with that option of clicking on any state that you would like. For example, we want to look at Florida, and they will all be there. And as you can see on the left here, they are constantly updating their website. And so there are recently added colleges. So this is ever changing. Every few months or so, it will look completely different. There might be a couple more colleges that will be added as opportunities for students that are looking to further their education. And what I like as well is you can look for the location, for example, Florida, Connecticut, all the states individually, but you can be more specific for the program features. So those that are CTP certified can offer financial aid. So those are some advanced features that you can look at, okay? And they will go through one by one. And like I said, it's only on Florida for right now for our search, so that's why those were coming up. In addition, a lot of resources for parents out there, a lot of resources and webinars to look at. So I'd like to go into some more information, detailed information about what a true Think College model looks like. Okay, so what we want from the college of your choice is that we really want that inclusive and supportive environment that welcomes students with intellectual disabilities and other disabilities because of the many gifts that they have to offer to enrich the unique culture of the institutions of higher education and include housing opportunities as well. So here are the Connecticut Think College options. I know that we explored them briefly in the website search a few minutes ago, but they are listed here. There's College Steps in Norwalk, out of Norwalk. The Goodwin University has the only CTP certified school, and we'll get into the details of what that means in a few minutes. That's based out of East Hartford, Connecticut. The REACH program out of Chapel Haven Center, it's out of New Haven. Step Forward is out of the Gateway Community College, also out of New Haven, Connecticut. And the Western Connection program, based out of the Western Connecticut State University in Danbury, Connecticut. So the co-located programs, these are run by the school districts by arrangement with a institution of higher education, or what we call an IHE. This is part of the typical transition program that the age range is from 18 to 22 years of age. And an example of this is the Middlesex Transition Academy out of Wesleyan, or the Hamden Transition Academy that you might see out of Southern Connecticut State University. At any time, the IHE, the Institution of Higher Education, can remove the program from campus. There are limited opportunities for true inclusion. This is more of a pretend program. The students may be on campus, but they may be in a separate building, and they don't have as much interaction with other students without disabilities. The second type of program is the substantially separate programs, and these programs operate more like a prep school, often are private pay. There's very limited inclusion opportunities and no guarantee of continuing higher education opportunities after the first year. And there is more of an auditing of classes that's offered more than actual participation with any kind of certificate at the end of completion. So these examples that we see in Connecticut are the Step Forward program out of Gateway, Thames program out of Mitchell College, and Chapel Haven out of New Haven. Paying for college. College is expensive, as everybody knows, and paying for it is never easy. Most families with children with intellectual disabilities have not saved because college was never something that was accepted or a future goal, a future realistic goal for parents, and not even often discussed in public school transition programs just until recently. So there are financial aid options out there. Now we have the ABLE account. So start thinking about now how to pay for college, because like I said, People never thought about it before because it wasn't reality. And now it's becoming more of reality and the opportunities are there.
So Theresa, I have a couple questions for you regarding your content. So first of all, it was wonderful. So thank you. It's very in-depth. I think the access to that website it's imperative. That's really golden. And I think parents should really look at that and get familiar with it. So thanks for introducing that. So why did you decide to further examine the Think College model as your project for partners in policy making? Like, what made you do that?
My interest is in always having high expectations and providing children like my own daughter with opportunities beyond what has always been expected of them. I really want that inclusive model for my own child. And I started to think, how could I make that happen for her? What happens for her? Now she's only in 7th grade, but what happens for her when she's done with high school? What does that look like? How can I get her to be as independent and successful as she can be? And I started to do some research and found the Think College model and just saw how much opportunity there was for students and children like my own throughout the country. And I love the website because it breaks it down by state. It breaks it down by what you're looking for. If you want a CTP program, if you don't, they also provide so many resources to parents. And the approach is really just that inclusive model. The sky is the limit. It might not be for everybody, but for those that it is appropriate for students that and children that the sky is the limit, having that high expectations, it provides such a great resource for parents and for students and professionals to further examine the future. And I'm so glad it's there. I'm glad that now there's endless opportunities.
Yeah. So what pieces of information would you share to parents based on your research on Think College, which I think you did such a great job of that already, but I know there's probably like one more thing in your mind that you're thinking could be shared with our parents tonight.
I really think that having high expectations for your child and believing that there are more opportunities than what had been typically seen in the past, and knowing that as hard as it is to break away and watch them transition, you have a child with a disability. And I think innately you want to protect them. And I think it's hard to let that go. And so as you're researching the Think College website, as a parent, I think that is a focus. That should be a focus for you of how to stop sheltering, stop protecting, and giving your child the opportunity that you may do for another one of your children without a disability. It's very hard, but you want them to be as independent as they can be. And part of it is believing that they can and breaking the dependence and the sheltering that is so innately in us to do. But that would be my recommendation, is really trying to build that independence, start within your own community, have your child do volunteer work, have them apply and work, gain some of that independence, starting as young as they can, so that it will benefit them in the future. Even as hard and heartbreaking as it is to watch, it's what you want. It's really, you want them to be independent in the real world.
Yeah.
So that would be my recommendation.
Well, thank you for everything. That was it. I'm sure we could keep talking for hours because it seems like our lives are very parallel.
Yes, I do have a second child with an IEP with ADHD and hearing loss for so many ear infections.
Yeah.
So I get you.
Yeah.
And those IEPs are different as well.
You've got 5 children, you've got 3 on me. So I give you a lot of credit for, pulling down all this stuff. So, but it was a pleasure meeting you. I want to thank you so much for the information. It's going to, I think if one of our parents learns one thing from your in-service here today, the webinar, then that's a win. So thank you
Yeah,
very
I agree.
much. Great. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Audra, and thank you, Theresa, for that great presentation. And don't forget to go to YouTube, to the Path CT YouTube channel, where you can find the unabridged version of Theresa's presentation and her conversation with Audra. Coming up next, Emily Ball and Andrea Richardson of PATH are going to talk about the transition to life after high school.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much, Kevin, for having Emily and I. I'm Andrea Richardson from PATH and Health Information Specialist, and my co-worker, my co-partner here, Emily Ball, is going to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Ball and I am the Youth Outreach Coordinator for PATH CC. And today I will be explaining about life after high school.
Okay, then. Well, why don't we get into it? You know, this presentation could be called Answers about the Transition to Life After High School. And for this segment, I will not be providing the answers, but I'll be asking the questions. So let's move on. First question. At what age does transition planning begin with an IEP?
Transition planning begins at the age of 14 up until the age of 22 when a student exits high school. Types of transition to consider: college options, think college as previously discussed, and vocational occupational opportunities, such as types of the Connecticut Department of Labor.
Okay, thank you. The next question. What are some options a parent can explore in assistive technology, and can AT be requested in an IEP?
Thank you for that question, Kevin. That's a question that many parents are looking for answers for. And I would just start out by saying that every U.S. state has a State Assistive Technology Act program. The programs offer services and conduct activities in two broad areas. Programs offer training, outreach, and professional development to promote knowledge and understanding of how to apply assistive technology in various sectors of their society. A parent can first ask their PPT team to perform an assistive technology evaluation to determine the student's assistive technology needs. That's the first thing. If the student is 18 years or older, the student can make this request themselves. In general, public schools are responsible for providing assistive technology to special education students while they are still in school. Sometimes the technology can be used away from school too, depending on the student's educational needs. Schools are not responsible for providing assistive technology for non-educational purposes. For example, assistive technology that would be used in a home or only while in their community. This is why it's important to be familiar with your State Assistive Technology Act program and the other resources that are cited on the next slide to give you some information about where to get that type of services. You can go to the State Assistive Technology Program in Connecticut. Take some time to write down that information so that you can look it up and ask any questions you have regarding that. They will be able to provide you with those answers as well. An assistive technology device demonstration is an opportunity for a person to interact with an AT device, learn about the different features, and compare with similar devices. An assistive technology device demo allows a person to make an informed decision about whether the device is the right one for them. That's very important, to make sure that the device is a good fit for the young adult that will be using it. You can request an AT device demo at one of these Connecticut TAP partner agencies listed on the screen. Next question.
Next question is, how to prepare a loved one for employment and adult living skills.
You can call your child's caseworker or the school personnel will know what age to seek out employment opportunities and get them connected to a level up counselor managed by the Bureau of Rehab Services, who will connect the young adult with a career counselor. If the youth is developmentally disabled and a DD client, the BRS will send it to a guardian or student asking them if they are interested in employment. Then a DDS case manager will work them through the process for employment readiness.
Thank
Adult
you.
living skills programs run with agencies whose purpose is to better prepare educating young adults on how to manage their daily affairs. Programs such as viability, programs of viability in Hartford, or Sunrise Community Services. The youth make and ask the school to invite the adult service provider to speak to the transitioning youth.
Next question.
Next question is, what is post-secondary education for individuals with special needs?
So post-secondary education covers a variety of goals in terms of pursuits for higher education. An education program that takes place after high school, like a Job Corps training or a trade, vocational trade school, or like our speaker earlier spoke about, Think College programs is another option. Community colleges, 2-year colleges, or 4-year colleges. A good example of one of those would be Goodwin Community College. That college offers transitional services for young adults who are looking for academic pursuits as well as a greater, higher educational opportunities. Next question, please.
What is guardianship?
Guardianship gives one person the legal right to care for and make decisions on behalf of another person. Usually, a minor or adult who is unable to make decisions for themselves, such as an elderly or disabled person. In addition, managing the care for this individual, known as a ward, a guardian also manages their finances. Guardianship of an adult can be granted when an adult is incapacitated and cannot make their own decisions. This could happen due to sudden illness, chronic illness that gradually leads to incapacitation, a disabled person reaching adulthood and requiring ongoing care and support, an adult exhibiting behavioral indicating they could not cause harm to themselves or others. Not everyone is a fan of guardianship process. However, there is an alternative to guardianship known as supported decision-making.
Next question.
What are the alternatives to guardianship?
Some of the alternatives to guardianship are considered, but before your child reaches the age of 18, Ask your attorney about alternatives to guardianship that are least restrictive to their personal liberty. That's very important. There are 3 alternatives to consider. The first is power of attorney, a legal document that allows you to act for another person. It creates a legal relationship in which that person is the principal and you are the agent. More information is available on the following website for that information. The second alternative would be a healthcare representative. A healthcare representative is a person chosen to make healthcare decisions for another if they can't speak for themselves. More information is also provided at the following website with regards to what a healthcare representative can and cannot do on behalf of a young adult. And the third, which is one of the more popular alternative, is supportive decision-making. The supportive decision-making is where a young adult child remains the decision maker in their life and is supported in their decisions by the people whom they have chosen to be of support to them. Supportive decision-making, in other words, means a youth or a young adult person has a say in the decisions that are being made about their lives. Both guardianship and supportive decision-making are possible ways of providing support for the individual loved one. However, guardianship, the guardian has all the say, versus supportive decision-making, where decisions are being made by the young adult since it's their lives being affected and their wants are considered and agreed upon by the caregivers that they chose, which allows for them to have the say in their own care. Something to note though, things that you can have access to that does not necessarily require guardianship or conservatorship. A power of attorney gives parents access to adults' child's educational records, their programs, and allows for them to participate in the young adult's IEP. A power of attorney can give parents access to financial records and the ability to assist or perform financial transactions for their young adult or on behalf of their young adult. And a healthcare representative gives parents access to adults' child's medical records and participation in healthcare decisions. These things does not necessarily require guardianship, but can still be a viable option for you to consider in supporting your child. Also note, guardianship requires a probate court hearing and approval by a judge. Guardianship is difficult to change or undo if you go down that route. A power of attorney and a healthcare representative do not require a court hearing. There needs to be a written agreement that is notarized for those 2 alternatives. The agreement can be changed at any time if both parties agree to it. Next question.
What is a special needs trust and an ABLE account?
A special needs trust is a legal arrangement that lets a physically or mentally ill person or someone chronically disabled have access to funding, being the benefit provided by a public assistance program. I actually have one in place for myself. An ABLE account is a tax-free savings account for people with disabilities. You can open an ABLE account by applying to a state's ABLE program online. You can deposit around $15,000 into an ABLE account annually.
Next question.
I also have one of those.
The next question is, what is a day program?
A day program is a place where youth and young adults can go during the day to get daily living skills, things such as cooking, arts and crafts, self-care, finance awareness, social engagement skills, and career counseling to teach them how to plan and set goals for their lives. Examples of such programs are Able Home and Ability Beyond Disability. These are facilities that provide these kinds of services for families looking for these type of programs. That actually wraps up our responses to the questions for this evening. Thank you so much. It ends our discussion on transitioning for educational services. And we'd like to thank Kevin Daly for allowing us to be a part of this session on answers. And we hope our presentation was helpful and informative to all of those who tuned in tonight. Emily, did you want to say anything a little bit about CT CASA?
Connecticut Kids and Self-Advocates is a self-advocacy group for youth and young adults ages 13 to 26. And we are currently looking for new members. So if you are interested, please contact me and I will give you more information. My email is eball@pathct.org.
Thank you so much once again, Kevin.
Oh, thank you. And there is a ton of information about CT CASA on the pathct.org website. So be sure to take a look at it. And it's a great program for young people who need to improve their leadership skills. I've seen it happen in young people in the program. It's a great program. But Emily, Andrea, don't go away, because now we're into the part of the webinar where we're going to take Q&A from participants. Yeah, thank you all for being here tonight. And folks, those of you who are out there, if you have questions, now's the time to click on chat or Q&A and submit something. And while we're waiting, I have a question I'd like to pose to the group, because we're here with a group of people who are all very knowledgeable about transition. As Emily said, the state requires public schools to start working on special ed transition at age 14. And my question is, for parents and families, should they start at age 14, or is there a better way? Should they start earlier? Who would like to take a crack at this? Audra. Audra, then Theresa.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me back. Interviewing Theresa I had a lot of takeaways from that. I just want to say that first. To answer your question, Kevin, I think as parents, I'm a parent of 2 children with exceptionalities and also a special education advocate. And I get asked that question a lot by parents. And I say, it's never too early to start. It is the golden rule for me personally. When my son was first diagnosed with autism and we went from birth to 3 into the school district at 3 years old, it was always in my mind, it is my job as his parent, it is my mission as his parent to prepare him for the most independent life he could possibly live later on in his life. Maybe I'm an anomaly, I don't know, but I've always thought that it was very, very important. Don't wait till 14. Is really what I tell a lot of my clients too, is that sometimes, it's just you have to read up on the information. You have to really get well versed, like Andrea and Emily had told us tonight about those contacts, and also what Theresa told us about, read up on it. You almost have to become a subject matter expert in this area as well as a parent, but it's important and I think it's well worth it.
Theresa, what do you think?
I would agree with Audra. I think that it is never too early to start. And part of my reasoning is if you wait till 14, you want to make sure that even before 14, they can start to have some of those prerequisite skills that they'll need for transitioning independence within college, within working. So providing the opportunities for involvement in whether or not it's community service or other kind of like jobs within could be within the church, could be within the school, things like that to help your child or student or family member start to get some of those basic foundational skills of being independent, how to work with others, how to take direction, how to problem solve if there's a concern or something that happens that is unexpected within maybe if you're working within the community and you have a job that you're doing, something goes wrong. What do? You don't have mom and dad there. You have to talk to your boss or whoever it might be. So some of those underlying skills that I think often we take advantage of can be learned way before age 14 and the school becomes more involved. And also just having that mindset going in whenever you're having the PPTs, that your goal as a family member or as a family is for X. Like I know when I've gone into PPTs with my daughter, even starting like for as early as second grade, saying, I want this IEP formed, and I want the focus for the academics to be college bound with some kind of modification. I want to make sure that that's where everybody on this team is striving for. So that's a conversation that started even earlier than 14 for us.
Andrea, what do you think?
100%, I agree with both Audra and Theresa. I think all of it is a combination of your unique household and, where you feel you can best advocate for your child. I do agree with the early start when Emily and I did our research and we looked at 14. 14 is the age in which the school really looks to work as a partner with you. But I like Theresa's plug with like bringing up the conversation as early as you possibly can to make sure that the team is aware that your goal for your child is along that trajectory. So I agree with that. But I do also agree with the soft skills. You're not going to get that at the age of 14. You start getting that while you're young, just learning how to be responsible, doing certain chores in your home, just just things. Soft skills are things that are overlooked, but it definitely talks a lot about your work ethic and how you come across and how consistent you are. And I like the volunteer. I think will to be a paid job, but it definitely will build a CV for them as they move forward in whatever it is. And I do
Unfortunately, Andrea seems to be having technical difficulties. And while she's straightening them out, a couple of questions have come in. First one is, hi, I have a 12-year-old son. Should I start looking into the transitioning things for him? And I think what we've heard from our team tonight so far is definitely yes. Even though schools start at age 14, 12 years old is a good time, even younger than that. And my own take on it is that, if you understand the kind of jobs that young people are looking for, we're going to have a generation of video game designers and possibly nothing else. It may be a little bit unrealistic for a young person to have a plan like that. However, as Theresa said, there are basic skills that need to be learned that would be applied in any situation, whether after college, after high school, going to school, or in employment, people skills. These are all important transition skills that would be used no matter what you get into. So it's important to start building those skills and doing it at an early age. I logged in late. Next question. My son is 15 and a 10th grader. They just did his MAPS meeting last year before school ended. And for those who are not familiar with MAPS, MAPS is an acronym for a type of meeting where it's a collaborative, free sharing of ideas, where people who know an individual who needs to map out their future, they get together and talk about what they would like to see, consider where they are now, and then kind of connect the dots and plot ways to do it. There are other ways to do that. There are other programs, but getting back to the question, he just did his MAPS meeting last year before school ended. My feeling, time is of the essence. She feels time is of the essence. I would love the resources presented earlier. Thank you. And that is a good point. I think the underlying theme here is that it's never too soon to start preparing for transition. And the same person who wrote in also wrote, NEAT did a 23-page evaluation on assistive technology. They were amazing if anyone is looking for assistive technology. And I thank you for that observation and that recommendation. My own experience with NEAT has always been very good. They're very professional, and they're willing to have you come over and try their stuff. They're always good about that. Their evaluations are top notch, and they work with many, many Connecticut school districts. We have another question. Any suggestions on how to build a transition plan for a child who needs a lot of assistance in their life and college may not be a real possibility? I want to plan for the most independence, but she is still struggling with daily skills. Where should I focus the start of transitional planning? Who would like to take a stab at answering that?
I can give it a try. I can at least add some information, and then whomever after could chime in. So I've dealt with that a lot personally with my soon-to-be 15-year-old. He's very impacted with speech and language and autism. He's intellectually disabled. So where do you go with that? You know, as kind of as a parent, you think about it every single day. The moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep. And then also, you know, I have clients that have to deal with families that deal with this every day. I think the place to start is evaluation. At least that's my humble opinion, because then you know your baseline, and then you build into from that evaluation and the recommendations, you'll be able to get the levels of performance off of that, and also off the IEP as well, you know, and having frequent discussions with the special ed teacher and the related service providers is imperative as well. It's hard to answer that fully, so feel free to reach out anytime, because I don't know what age your child is and, you know, what the exceptionality is. So I think that will help gauge for you what path you go on. But I think a good place to start is, you know, looking at those evaluations if they were just done. And if not, you know, maybe your triennial is coming up, put that question out to your IEP team. You're at the PPT meeting. Getting their input on that is imperative, because those are the people that are going to be implementing those goals and objectives for your child. And then building those goals and objectives into that IEP, also imperative, because it's like a staircase. We're building them up towards gaining their independence. I'm a big believer, like I said before, of starting early. It's never too early to start, because you're always thinking about transition, and especially me speaking as a special ed advocate, but mostly as a parent. It's what we think about all the time. I live in your world. I understand it. You know, we're always worried about our children. And there's something that Theresa said when we did our interview, you know, we have to stop protecting them. That's my takeaway from what she said. We have to stop protecting them as much as we do and build their independence. And we can do that and starting today, if you haven't started already. So feel free to reach out. But if there's anybody else that wants to add to that, please do.
I think that was an excellent point, Audra. This is Theresa again. I just wanted to also, you know, validate the question that there is some other skills that your child needs to still work on. So there are programs out there that can address, it's not only all academics, there are a lot out there that do compose that life skills component. As a matter of fact, I think all college children could benefit from a lot of those components: money management, job coaching, etc., how to build a resume, and even just some basic, the housekeeping piece of life. So I don't think that looking and evaluating programs that evaluate that holistic part of the activities of daily living and independent activities of daily living is something that you should discount either. The whole presentation on Think College is that there's opportunities, but you could tell for intellectually disabled and other children out there with disabilities, but you could tell from even just the programs listed within Connecticut, there are variations within how the programs are set up. So, it's a good idea just to keep all of your child's needs within the window of what you're looking for when you think about the future as well.
I agree, Teresa. You made me think of something as well, because I know you're an OT, so you're you're thinking of those life skills. But you said something that made me remember. I didn't miss the point, but it's functional life skills. Functional life skills. There's even kids without IEPs still need
Yes.
that. Still need study skills and all that going into college. But even way before that, I mean, when we're talking about like our little kids, our elementary and our middle school kids, assessment of functional living skills. We need to know where those kids are. I'm all about the data. So the assessment, is where I live. But we got to have our parents ask for those things because it's so important. You have your baseline and we build from there. What does that look like in a year from now? What does that look like in 2 years from now? And using the SEAM evaluations or derivative of those evaluations in order to assess those functional living skills, because that is what holds jobs, those social skills, being able to, hold a job. It's so important. And of course, with support if needed. So,
and also, and also to your point about the evaluations, that's another thing, incorporating a variety of assessments, not just the typical standardized assessments, looking at all those adaptive skills, the school function, a global approach to the individual, because that's how we have to look at our children holistically. Sometimes, on paper, the academic strengths are not there, but they have so many other abilities that can make them excellent, students at a collegiate level, with modifications, or an excellent employee of some sort of a job, that is fitting for them. So I think just not only just looking at the academic piece and the, all the reading scores and this, that, and the other, all those data assessments, but also take into consideration the data points of the life skills, the adaptive skills as well.
I would like to say a little bit if I could. I would say ditto to everything Audra and Theresa said, 100% baseline. You should know where you're beginning, where your foundation is. But I think a very important part to also consider is their buy-in, making sure that they are in agreement with, what you want for them, because it would go a lot easier and a lot smoother. It doesn't matter, if your child has special healthcare needs or not. I mean, at the end of the day, it's you want to partner with this process. They have to want to work with you with this. And I think what's interesting what Audra said was, if you figure out where you are, where your starting point is, you can show them, hey, if this is where you want to be, then here are all the steps that you got to do to get there. And even if you made it a fun treasure map, okay, so here is the booty, the goal, here is the treasure that you want to attain. But look at all the different places you need to go to first before you can get there. And whether that is just being responsible with, taking care of what you're supposed to take care of in the home, or making sure that you're on top of all the other things that, no one's asking you to do, but you're taking initiative to do it. Check that box. So you can say, hey, do you show initiative, or does someone have to always remind you? There's this little things you can do now to help them build those type of skill sets that will make them a reliable, well sought after candidate that can compete for employment opportunities, career opportunities, or any job opportunities. But those are the skills that, sometimes we overlook. And I mentioned them earlier. They're the soft skills. They're the ones that really speaks a lot about a work ethic in an individual, and their character building skills. They're the same things that will make a teacher in a school want to write a recommendation letter for you. They're the same skills that's going to make, someone at a camp, speak well of you and say, hey, add me to your reference. Or I'm thinking about someone, I'm going to think of you. Why? Because you showed up as that person that is reliable. You show up on time. You showed up as that person that didn't only do what was told, but you went beyond. I mean, those are the type of things we need to start instilling in them so that they get to understand that these are like the nuggets. These are the little treasures along the way to get to that goal. And so I think it goes a long way with starting with the character skills.
Agreed. We have another question. I have a MAPS meeting in high school. I had a MAPS meeting in high school, and personally, I found it very overwhelming. Do you think it's fair that disabled children have to plan their life so early, whereas other kids don't? Who would like to take that question?
I think that's, speaking from experience, I don't think that's fair. That, school districts make us do that.
Emily, it's Audra. How are you, by the way?
I'm
I didn't
good.
get to say hi before. It's good to see you.
Same here.
How did that help you with that planning portion of things? Like, how do you feel as though that was an advantage to you?
Well, I think it just sort of made me, like, I understood that they were trying to prepare me for young adulthood. But as the young adult, I was kind of like taken aback because, like, I had only had I had only started going to my IEPs when I was like a junior. So it was all very like shocking.
And I agree. And I think the difference between children like my children and children in general education, you do have to plan. Yes, you have to plan for kids in general education that do not live in those disability realms and have IEPs or 504s, of course. But there's just so much that goes into it. It's financial, it's a lot of thought, it's gathering resources together, being able to do that, and especially with more than one child within the special education world, and getting both of those children, or in some cases, one of my clients has 3 kids. How do you get 3 kids ready all at the same time to enter into the adult world? That is like a Herculean feat, I think. And so that's why we have to plan it. That's the difference. This just has to be done. That's why it starts at 14, because it's now legally the districts have to do it too.
Andrea, were you going to say something?
Yes, I wanted to validate the person who asked the question, because I do agree it is a bit overwhelming. And Emily gone through it herself and experiencing it for the first time in the beginning. It does feel that way, and I think all things that you start out with that you're not well versed in is overwhelming. So that's an honest, very valid sentiment. So I want to give you credit for at least acknowledging that, and for you and for your child. But you just got to take steps. Audra pointed out some good points as well with regards to the reason why it makes more sense. Yeah, there's going to be, potholes along the way. There's going to be, mountain and molehills. There are going to be things you're going to have to, get over, but you're doing it together with your child. They see the support, they feel the support. You're not, letting them figure it out on their own, and you're learning together through this as well. As you look into those resources, as you do your research, you're going to learn and figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And he or she will also be able to point out what they feel they didn't like, or, and that's a good thing. It may be an uncomfortable thing because, it's new, might be challenging, but it is a good thing. I wouldn't use the word fear. I don't think it's a matter of fear in terms of FAIR. I think it's more a matter of what are our opportunities? What are our challenges? What are we going to do to overcome them? And we're working together so we can get it done. And you having, or you taking that very optimistic, very positive approach will help to bring your child along the way.
Well, I see we are at our scheduled adjournment time. I want to thank our guests, Emily, Andrea, Theresa. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And as always, Audra, our in-house advocate, thank you. And my thanks to you who are watching, and thank you for staying for so long. The next edition of Answers is going to be on October 11th. And next chance you get, be sure to go to the Path CT YouTube channel and look up Theresa's presentation. Just search for the words Think College. You'll see the full unabridged presentation, and you'll hear a lot more about it, as well as the full conversation with Theresa and Audra. So that's it. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you on October 11th as the journey continues. Thanks, folks.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Night.